Good? Okay, all right. Thank you all and welcome to the Select Board meeting for July 1st, 2024. We had scheduled a non-public session. That non-public session did not take place as a non-public session. This is the first part of our official Select Board meeting. Joining us by phone is Select Board member Jenny Chamberlain. And you will hear her voice on the speaker. We are going to have a public hearing. However, prior to the public hearing, I would like to, with the consent of Select Board members, to reorder the agenda so that we could have public comment in front of the public hearing. So unless there are objections, I'm looking, no, that looks like that's fine. So we will go straight to public comment. Bear with me 1 second, please.
While you're doing that,
yes.
My understanding is Jenny has voting capability, correct?
Yes,
I believe so. She just doesn't count as for quorum.
Right, exactly.
As long as there's a quorum
and Jenny can vote.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. So on the public comments, first, this is the period of the agenda when the public is welcome to address the Select Board. We ask that one addresses issues that are not already scheduled on the agenda. We ask that individuals restrict their comments to 5 minutes. Questions should be directed to the chair of the Select Board. That's me. The chair will decide whether to answer questions or to take comments under advisement. There we are. So are there folks here who would like to address the Select Board as part of the public comment? So I know, Susan, would you like to come forward? If you don't mind sitting, and the reason for that is that the microphone there will allow CATV to pick up. If you could identify yourself and where you're from.
Hi. My name is Susan Blom, and I live at 7060 East Wheelock Street in Hanover. Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Of course.
I come here tonight because when I read that Hanover was hiring lawyers to fight the release of the police report on the arrest of peaceful protesters, I was very alarmed. For democracy to work, transparency is a key component. If we do not have an open and transparent government at the local level, then there's little hope for our democracy on the national level. Release the reports. Why would we not want the reports to be released? If errors were made, only by transparency can we learn to improve our policing. Hanover is a separate entity than Dartmouth. Hanover should not be in a position to protect Dartmouth if that protection requires secret actions. Please fire those lawyers and release the reports. And I'm not sure, my question then is, not sure if that comes under the authority of the Select Board or if that's a sole decision of the town manager to hire lawyers to, to decide legal issues, and who, I'd like to really know who was the person or entity decided not to release the police reports because other towns have, complied and released the reports.
Okay. So it is an ongoing matter. It has still not been fully adjudicated. I think that the facts of different towns handling different matters, it is complicated. It has to do with when records are requested in relation to trial and whose interests might be hurt. So you should know, and it's in the paper, so I'm not telling you anything that isn't already known, that the town sought guidance in its initial filing. That there are aspects of the ruling that, again, you can read this from the newspaper. I'm probably not telling you anything, Susan, that you don't already know, but there are aspects of the ruling that the town would like to have reconsidered, which is why a motion for reconsideration was filed.
Ruling on what? I'm sorry.
The Grantham court's ruling?
Grafton.
Grafton County, yes.
That to release reports?
Yes,
They,
yes.
they said, why would you protest that? I mean, why would you not want transparency? I don't know, I'm kind of baffled.
So you know, there is precedent that could be set in this case that in a different factual case, I think you might find abhorrent that police reports might get released if it led to jeopardy for an individual's security. There are different facts and circumstances under which you might see fit to say, you know, that probably shouldn't be released.
I think that there's probably very little area where you would never want it released. I think in a democracy, we're pretty much an open society, and
There's the right to privacy, though.
Yeah.
If you were taken under custody, or there are situations that you might not want that information. If it would impact or create a mistrial, for example, or would impact the courts, especially when the case is pending, you know, is going to go before the courts imminently.
will those reports be released if the defendants for the October incident, if that trial is if they're released from that obligation to be tried?
Can't answer that.
Yeah, probably can't answer that, Susan. But I would urge you to just think about, and we only have 40 seconds left, the broader picture beyond this one case.
Okay.
Yep. So.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Yes. Okay. Other individuals who would like to?
Someone in the back there.
Yes. Okay, someone in the back. Yes. And David, I think. Yeah.
Rosemary Sahete again.
Yes. Rosemary.
Nice to see you guys, thanks. And I come to these a lot just to try and get a better understanding of things based upon the questions Sue just asked. With the town, I wondered when I first read up everything too, and I don't have enough information, and it's probably my ignorance, but who foots the bill for all of this? Does this end up part of our budget items that we as taxpayers are responsible for whatever the fine was, the legal costs and everything else? And at that point, I feel her point is even better taken, that we are paying for this, and transparency or not. You know, most of us haven't, I don't know enough about it, but my taxes are going up 6.5%, so I begin to look at a lot of things, and my taxes are already high. So these kinds of things do matter to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosemary. All right. Others who might wish to speak? Yes. Mary. And if you could introduce yourself, Mary. Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mary Heckin-Phillips. I'm one of your state reps to the State House in Concord, but I'm also here tonight in my capacity as a member of the Hanover and Lyme Town Democrats. And speaking to you specifically about a concern that our group, the Town Democrats, has shared and authorized me to come to speak with you about today on behalf of those executive committee members. We have perceived a trend of what some might describe as political speech being stifled here in our community, with two particular points that give us concern and the reason why I'm here tonight. The first is the new Park and Recreation's Code of Conduct for the 4th of July parade. And the other is the Allen Street Ordinance, specific to Section 3, which outlimits a form of political speech. So these two data points have caused our community political committee to raise a flag and to request your consideration of this concern. So our community has a strong, strong history of robust political speech. As you know, our community has advocated on behalf of the college and our community residents as far back as when New Hampshire was being colonized and separated from the Massachusetts Bay Colony, specifically because of the weight of our community in regional politics. You also know we have a strong history of robust political speech because of our first in the nation primary, which brings national and statewide candidates to our community from Ike to Obama in our political spaces where they were never told that the kind of political speech that they were gonna bring to our community was fine, except for this one kind of political speech that you're about to give. So knowing this history, knowing this tradition, we have a concern that the Code of Conduct specifically, I can pull up the wording if needed, but I think we all are familiar with it. There is a new effort to describe what kinds of political messages the town Democrats can bring to the parade on the 4th of July. And for information, we have agreed, we have applied and were accepted to march in the parade again this season, as well as, every season that I could possibly think of, and, the members of our committee can think of. So we have been told that we are allowed to bring signs with candidate names only, but no political messages other than a logo can be, other than a slogan of a political candidate can be brought. So in the past there were pride signs that expressed inclusiveness and diversity. In the past there have been signs advocating for climate and sustainability. And that is part of the democratic value and the platform of our committee. So of course, we would like to share those with our community when we march. And we are concerned that we're not allowed to share those messages on this parade and possibly in the future, when we all know that the primary season, the 2 months between July 4th and the early September calendar when the primary happens, are probably the most politically engaged periods of time before the general election, every 2 years, possibly 4 if you're only a general election voter. So at a moment where we're trying to build community engagement and expand public awareness of politics and those elected campaigns that are coming up before us, we would just like to advocate for the widest possible political advocacy and speech permitted in our town that is congruent with the history here in the community, and one that does not limit specific types of political speech that are already authorized in our Constitution. So that's why I'm here, and I hope you're open to that message, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mary. We have about a minute left, but I guess I was not familiar with changes relative to the parade. I mean, Alex,
We're doing the same thing that we did last year.
okay.
Yeah.
So that was not expressed to us last year before we applied, and so this is the first time we've ever seen this in print, and that's why we're coming to you today. I think it's an important question to ask, like, why the change and what was the intent behind that change, and if there was a specific event that triggered this change, we're happy to have a conversation and to try to work out those differences, but making it kind of a new written policy without having an open forum about why that was changed, I think unfairly discriminates against a group that has been has a long tradition of participating in a very distinguished and respectful manner for our community, which we would appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. The Allen Street Ordinance will be discussed later if you want to stick around. Okay, all right, thanks, Mary. Okay, any other members of the public who would like to speak? David?
David Vincelette, 93 Lebanon Street, Hanover. I'm a retired veteran. I have a duty to come here and expose violations of the Constitution that have taken place in Hanover over the last few years. For 17 years, I came to meetings asking Peter Christian, beginning in 2005, about the asphalt waste recycling program that contaminated our water. He came up with a policy that he would not answer any of my questions. Although he lied to the public and told them that he was answering my questions in writing, he never answered a single question. When Peter was not reelected, Athos Racius took over the chairmanship I believe it's the last 2 years, maybe longer. But he maintained the no answers policy of Peter Christian. So now, after 19 years of abuse and shunning, a new chairman is in charge. There were 5 criminals on the board, plus Julia Griffin, when they elected or chose Alex Torpy, and he has kept their secrets. For 2 years, he has failed to return my calls or schedule my testimony for a hearing with the people who have violated us. Now, under the right to know, we have the right Article 8 of the New Hampshire Constitution requires all officers of the government to be available to the public and to be accountable for everything they do. Out of the 5 people who chose Alex Torpy from the board, only 2 remain, Athos Rassius and Joanna Whitcomb. Both of them committed federal and state crimes by putting a fence around our property and holding us prisoner for 25.5 months. We need answers from the groups who supported them and hid what they did. We need help. We need answers from the police department, the fire department, Public Works, and the housing office, all combined to put us in a concentration camp and to keep it secret for 25.5 months until I was able to get a court order to free us. Still, after all this time, there's not been any attempt to apologize for what's been done to my family. Each one of these, the police, the fire, and the Public Works, are each unionized workforces who work for Hanover, but who all live out of town. And they've been able to hide what they've done completely from the town officers. Now, under New Hampshire law, members of the Select Board may be removed for inefficiency, breach of duty, or malfeasance. The Select Board members can be removed by the board. And I entreat you to please consider putting the 2 criminals off of the board as soon as possible, having a meeting and a discussion, interviews of the people who were allowed to hold us hostage, and all who assisted, because Athos Rassius and Joanna Whitcomb both were on the board when the town was allowed to put asphalt waste and coal tar on the town road. Rural roads were washed into town waters. The state found it in town waters, and it was in Mink Brook and Storrs Pond, to name 2. Is that my time?
Yeah, David, if you could just finish up, please.
Well, I still have the same questions I've had for 19 years. Who authorized the dumping of asphalt waste into Mink Brook and Storrs Pond? Who participated? How much did they dump? And how much coal tar did they dump? Those are some of the beginning of the questions I'd like to have answered.
Any other members of the public with comments?
No answers?
David, I've been,
You're not the chairman. I'm not talking to you. I'm supposed to be talking to the chairman, aren't I?
That's true, that's true.
Yes,
Thank you
yes.
for correcting me.
Yes, however, I can turn to other people, David, so I know you were,
Would you like me to speak?
please.
David, I have been trying to work on things. It's been taking me a while, and I apologize for the delay, but I'm still looking into things.
It's only been 19 years.
David, we've been having ongoing conversations for the last couple of months, few months, I would say.
I've been having constant conversations with you for 19 years. You can go back through the record. I've been coming to these meetings and speaking to you. You just haven't been listening.
I'll get back to you when I have some information to report, David.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Okay, all right, thank you. We will now turn to a public hearing. One second. Okay, we now turn to the portion of the meeting that is a public hearing. We need a motion, we don't need a motion.
No, traditionally, you've just
Go
opened, the
straight
chair
into
opens
it.
it.
We are in a public hearing. We have, the first on the docket is the rate and fee schedule for fiscal year 2024, 2025. And this is really a continuation of a conversation from 2 weeks ago. Ellen, I don't know if you wanted to move up to the table, if you are so inclined.
I'm happy
So-
to. Ellen Bullion, Director of Finance.
Thank you.
Between last discussion and last select board meeting and today, I have not received any additional feedback or input on the rates and fees as published and posted downstairs on the bulletin board and on the website.
And just for those who might be following along with the PDF of the Friday mailing, which is 151 pages in length, we are referring to pages 13 through 38. So, did you want to provide any kind of overview or recap, or you just go to, I know there were questions from last time, where would you like to go with this?
You know, I think that one question that I had noted was, I guess Jenny's question on whether the AWAA, the actual basis for the water and sewer fees was a national organization, and it is. So that was one question that I had taken. And I didn't have any other additional updates other than potentially discussing the rates and fees for the Allen Street. Are there other questions that anyone else wanted to follow up on?
Yeah, I'm looking also to Alex. I don't know if you had comments you wanted to make in this portion of the
No, I don't think so.
public hearing.
Yeah, the only thing that we really changed was adding a parklet last meeting, where the application fee goes to planning and the parking revenue goes to parking.
Correct.
And I think that was really the only kind of change this year.
Yeah, we had a couple of updates to a handful of the rates and fees, which I certainly can, I can walk through those again. If that would be helpful. I think we did cover those in the last meeting.
Maybe take a few minutes if you don't mind, even if it's a little bit redundant, just to highlight the changes, and then we'll see if we have any other issues.
All right, I can do that. I think I actually may only have page 1 of my memo, but I think for fire and ambulance, we did increase the per capita fee for communities receiving ambulance services. That was increased by 5%, from $43.38 to $45.55, and that matches
the revenue increase in our budget. Again, as Alex mentioned, in planning and zoning, we added the parklet application fee of $50. For the parking department, we added the parklet parking space offset fee at $250 a space. We added a duplicate permit fee at $10, and that's where it's not an additional fee, but for businesses that have shared spaces, that allows the employees to seamlessly come and go. In addition, we corrected the 4th hour in the town parking garage to $1 so that the cumulative rate did actually add up to $6. And then for the town parking garage, for the validation stickers, the 1 hour increased to $1 from 75 cents. For parks and recreation, last year we started and phased in a $5 increase for the athletic and lacrosse programs, so that those were both increased by $3 this year, after being increased $2 last year. And in the after-school program, the Parks and Rec Department did add a one-day enrollment fee of $85, and that was based on the demand for that option. And I think they mentioned that that's often on Wednesdays when there's a shorter day, school day. In addition, the mini camp residential fees were increased from $250 to $275, and the play program added a monthly half-day fee, or increased the monthly half-day fee from $520 to $585. In addition, we did have an increase in non-resident cemetery lots from $2,050 to $2,200. We increased the interment of cremation urn from $250 to $300, and added a flat marker installation fee of $50 that remains and will remain free for veterans. Bear with me 1 minute.
Thank you, and I know that it starts to get numerous when we get into water, et cetera. It's kind of too detailed to really go through, so maybe what we can just reference on pages 35, 36, and 37. There are a number of changes, but I think it's probably too numerous to go through in detail, unless you wanted to add anything there, Alan.
No, I think all the detail is there.
Alex, did you want to address parklet fees for future years? We had a little discussion around that, and I think it's maybe in your report as well. Do you want to just reference that here?
If it's just briefly that, I think, the ordinance was originally set up for 3 years, and I think it's time, we talked about it in the prior meeting that we probably want to look at those fees, and so we haven't made any major adjustments in this year, but it's certainly something that we should do is look at the process of people applying for parklets, and we should look at the costs as well, and just try to make sure that everything is consistent and fair. Okay. That's really all I have there.
Right. We'll turn to
and then we should do that before November or December of this year, which is when the application period starts for people to begin to apply for parklets next year.
Oh, that early?
Yeah. Although I don't think we could double check with Rob. I think people applied towards the end. So I mentioned that we could probably, I think in the ordinance currently we start in November as the application period, but we could probably push that back a month. And we could confirm that with Rob. I don't think that would make any difference if the select board wanted an extra month at the end of that to talk about it.
Alex or Ellen, I was wondering about the Huddy Lane permit parking. I thought in the previous version that it had a proposed fee that was daily, which I thought was very nicely in line with our master plan, and I see now that it's a monthly permit fee.
It was changed from to a monthly permit fee in January 1st of 23.
Oh, not from a bi-monthly to monthly, but in the last time we had discussed the rates and fees at the select board meeting. This was listed as a daily fee, not a monthly fee, at a different amount. And I was wondering what the thinking was. And I thought that was very much in line with our master plan, so that we sort of best use the spaces that we have and can share them with, whoever goes that day. And I was just wondering what the thinking was with this being a monthly fee, or if that was not the intention to be a daily fee last time. I just was wondering why the change from the last time we reviewed these fees.
Last time, like 2 weeks ago, Jenny, or last time, like
No,
years
like
ago?
2 weeks ago.
I don't remember it being a daily.
And I just want to clarify, Jenny, just because since you're on the phone, but we are talking about the Hovey Lane.
Correct. The Hovey Lane, Lower Lebanon Street permit parking.
Yeah, I mean, I do see in the spreadsheet, the prior one, it does say $25 a day.
So I believe in that spreadsheet that some of the lines got misaligned, and that's where I think in that spreadsheet we also had the Parklets at I can't remember.
Right, you're right.
That was incorrect.
And that 55 should be one line up, and that's corrected. So Jenny, I think you're right. I don't know what caused it, but it does look like in that first sheet, all those cells got bumped down.
They got bumped down.
So $25 a day was above, and $55 was also above.
Yep.
That should have been in the Hovey spot.
And that was corrected for the rates and fees that were posted.
I mean, we can certainly take the question back to parking, and I think part of what we're kind of recommending is there's a lot of good questions about how we do parking in Hanover, and really the idea of creating a multi-stakeholder group that can kind of talk about these things, which there really isn't a place to do that right now. It's kind of nowhere or straight to select board meetings, and so the idea. So I would certainly, would think. I don't know if there's a timing to want to try and dig into that now versus kind of putting that on the list of a bunch of questions that have come up about parking that should definitely get a little more time.
Okay. Yeah, I would,
So send it to committee.
yes, I would make it part of that broader.
Does
Create
that make
committee and
sense?
then send to committee.
Yes, right, exactly.
But I think, we've had a bunch of questions over
We have.
parking, and so I think let's get the people who do parking, the people who are really concerned about parking in a room, and come up with some options. I think that makes sense.
Yes, good,
Thanks.
good, okay. Thank you. Jenny, did you have other questions?
No, that was it. Everything else seemed to be the same as the previous time we discussed, but like everyone has been talking about, there's a lot of questions about parking. It'll be very exciting to get everything in line with the master plan and think critically about how we're using our space around town.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who have questions with respect to rates and fees? Yes, Rosemary.
I just wanted to understand
If you don't mind coming up, just for the benefit of the viewers at home.
Thank you. When we talk about the Parklet fee, and it may be written in the write-up, and I apologize if I didn't get that, I should have. I keep hearing $250 per space. Is that per space? If we look at the logo, I can't tell if that's 2 parking spaces or 3 parking spaces. But is that $250 per parking space that it took, or for the space for the basically unused parklet that's there because they've got all the tables and chairs behind it anyway? So when we talk about, and is that for what time frame, and how long does it go out for? It's obviously not part of the pilot thing, so I don't know how long they stay out there. Theirs went up later than everybody else's, but how does that fee fit into the whole format?
So it is per parking space.
Per space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the time frame.
It's like Memorial to Labor Day it's about 4 months.
So that's $250 for the 3 spaces for the.
Per space,
per month or for the whole?
No, that
Or
is
is it
for
for
the
the
entire
season?
thing,
It's
yeah.
for the season.
It's for the season.
So if we say Beloco is 3, which it may be only 2, it may be 3, but that's anywhere between 500 and 750 for whatever that full time frame is.
Correct.
Right, and in one of the prior meetings, I think people were doing some math and realizing that the parklet fees don't actually fully make up for the revenue loss of parking.
Okay, thank you.
And those fees were set in 2021.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that's, Rosemary, that's a really good point, and that's what this committee's gonna address. And Jarrett, who has a parklet in front of Lou's, concurred and thought we should really examine those, so that's the thing we're gonna.
And some of them are really used.
Yep.
And you can say, that's a good thing. Others of them aren't used, and when I drove down Sunday morning and the only empty spaces were the handicap spaces, which of course goes back to the other comment from last month. It's, just wish that some of those weren't taking up the only spaces there are to park on the main street. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosemary. Any other members of the public, any other comments? No. Ellen, did you have anything else there? No.
Well, we have the temporary Allen Street rates and fees that are associated and are taken from the ordinance.
Right.
And that would be a proposed addition to the rates and fees that would be published and voted on. I do have a copy of those for you if you'd like to take a look. And again, it is captured in the ordinance.
Yes, yeah, if you do you have a copy, yeah, okay,
I do.
thank you. And I think this is also in the town manager report, it's often referenced, right?
I'm not sure, we didn't include that in
Okay.
there, but maybe I think it would be helpful, maybe if Ellen were to just read out the numbers, even though they are in the ordinance.
Sure.
We did mention that, thank you.
I can do that.
Which is that even though it's a temporary ordinance, it still probably makes sense, it's the cleanest to have it in the rates and fees.
Yeah.
Ellen, do you want me to read these while you're walking around?
Sure.
Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different fees. One is for the food service seating areas. This is a one-time payment of $150 for every 200 square feet of outdoor dining. The next 3 fees are for the 12x6 vendor spots. It's $5 a day for a Hanover-based business, organization, or resident. $10 for a Hanover nonprofit or community group, and $50 for a non-Hanover-based business. And then the last fee is for community group public events, which can use Allen Street for an event, but it's not private, just for the event. That is a maximum of the town can charge up to $100 for each event, and that's based on our cost of sort of providing the services, whatever's needed for that. So we just wanted to make sure, I think it was the kind of cleanest and most transparent way to put it in the rates and fee schedules, even though these rates and fees only exist for 2 months.
Okay, so these are amendments, but
Yeah.
they are incorporated in the schedule.
Rates and fee
Yeah.
schedule.
That's what we're
Yeah.
suggesting, yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
And
Yeah.
are we set for public hearing on this? I mean, was this posted as part of it?
You can make amendments to things
Okay,
during the meeting.
So this is a
Okay.
floor amendment.
A floor amendment.
If you will, yes, I'm not sure that's the right word, but yeah, okay,
we can make it up.
yes. Bobby, did you have a comment or a question?
I do.
Yeah.
Hitchcock, town clerk, Hanover resident. I wasn't thinking I would speak on this, but I did get a call last week about the rates for the vendor spots by a concerned Hanover resident that the disparity between in-town rental and out-of-town rentals may send a bad message about the town. Specifically that we want people to come and spend their money in Hanover, but we don't want people to move their businesses in Hanover if they don't live in Hanover. So that triggered me personally, because having lived in Hanover for a long time, I've gotten a fair amount of feedback from outside of Hanover about Hanover being elitist and unwelcoming. So I just want to make a public comment about that.
Okay, thank you. So, sorry, so the difference for the vendor spots is
Is it,
is
It's
not large enough.
$5.
oh, so,
She's saying it's too large, between the 5 and the 50.
yes.
Right.
Between the 5 and the 50, yeah. So,
And the genesis of that was, of course, you're talking with business owners in the downtown who already pay a lot of property taxes in Hanover.
Yep.
This is a pretty common framework for downtowns that are doing things like this, where they offer a tiered pricing.
Yep.
And then if you're already in the community and you're paying the high property taxes, you're losing some parking spots and sort of things like that. And so the idea was trying to help Hanover businesses, and we definitely want visitors, but also really want, this is really meant for Hanover, businesses.
Well,
Okay.
it's kind of like the library, like, as a
Right.
Hanover resident, you
Okay.
get
A free.
a free one, and as someone from out of town, you have to
Okay,
pay.
so-
Yeah,
okay.
so,
Well,
but I think
that's-
good,
Sorry, go ahead.
something to consider as we move forward.
Well,
I think
I
that's
thought
good.
about this a bit, and it occurred to me if part of this whole project is to promote community, is that antithetical to the goal of promoting community? It's just something to think about.
Yeah, I can see it's sort of arguments on both sides, but yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
Sorry.
I can see arguments on both sides of that, but yes, okay, thanks, Bobby. Anything else? If not, I think we're ready.
I'm just concerned about, we've heard that it's hard to find a parking space, and one of the things that makes it difficult to find a parking space is if they're not priced to accommodate the demand. And if I'm worried if we offer spaces for free, then we'll be in more of a predicament.
Are you talking about the free 15-minute spots? Or no, what are we talking about?
Correct.
That's what you're talking about, yeah, okay.
I don't understand what you're saying, Jimmy.
There's a, we're talking about that in parking, the free.
Yeah, come back to this.
Because that's actually,
Yeah, so I think we're gonna come back to that.
Okay.
Fine.
Jenny, so anything else on rates and fees?
So that one's not being amended to the rates and fees. I'm a little confused.
Is that in the
Are we just voting on the rates and fees like as is, or are the
That's not in here.
rates and fees from the other ordinance being added,
So
or is that separate?
we're adding the temporary Allen Street fees, but that does not have anything on parking.
Okay,
But we are
Then
gonna talk
that's
about
fine.
parking shortly, yeah, so, right.
Yeah, then you
We're gonna
amend
come
the
back
parking ordinance.
We're gonna come back to the parking ordinance, but, so right now it's rates and fees, and unless there are further questions and or comments,
Although,
Yes.
wait a second.
yeah.
So if we're adjusting parking rates and fees, and the parking ordinance changes parking rates from $4 a day to free or 15 minutes, then does that mean we have to amend this too?
I don't think so, because if you look at the way the meters are, so if you look at like the parking ordinance, there's like probably 10 pages of appendix about all the different places where there are parking meters and what regulations are in place on each of those locations, whereas the rates and fees set the rates for the different levels, so 2-hour rates, 3-hour rates, things of that nature. So that's in the rates and fee schedule, and then it sort of is referenced in the parking, so they're connected, if that makes sense. But there's nothing in the rates and fee schedule about Allen Street meters
Specific, yeah.
specifically. That's in the parking ordinance.
Okay, thank you. I can buy that.
All right, we have 5 more public hearings after this, so
Right,
unless there's
let's get
anything else, I would look for a motion
I move to approve the rates and fee schedule as amended
for fiscal year
for
24,
fiscal
25.
FY 25.
Second, office.
What do you want, you said? You said second.
I'm happy to second.
You
All
said
right.
the second.
All those in favor, raise your hand and or say aye.
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 Jenny?
I'm just gonna abstain on this because I think it's really important that we review all of the parking, as I mentioned last year.
Okay. Yes, all right, thank you.
Abstention.
Okay.
3 in favor, 1 abstain.
Thank you. Now, let's move on
There you
to
go.
Allen Street Placemaking Pilot Temporary Ordinance number 42. And this again was discussed last select board meeting. Alex, do you want to introduce this?
Sure. Yeah, and I'll also just start with, I've got it listed incorrectly. That's my mistake. In 1 or 2 spots, it says 42. It should be 43. So that is correctly listed on the agenda, but 42 is in a few spots, which is our rental housing. So just for whatever it's worth, 43 is the right number.
43, okay.
So there's just been a couple small updates on the Allen Street piece, and I'll do these each separately in the kind of different public hearing sections. So there's been no major changes. The only real change, I can walk through a couple things that we kind of made. One is we added free motorcycle parking on Allen Street in the last parking space, which we weren't really sure what to do with. We weren't super comfortable with cars backing down there to park, but we did feel comfortable that motorcycles could do that without causing any traffic issues. We thought about making another delivery zone. We didn't really like that idea. But we actually did get multiple emails from people who I guess use the motorcycle spaces over the last couple of weeks and said, are we going to replace those? And then all the staff talked and we said, we've got one parking space here. So we took the sign down from that one area and put it in that spot. And there are motorcycles in there, so it seems to be working. So that was one change. We also did add a crosswalk painting across the entrance to the town hall parking lot. Because we now have trucks parked there anyway before, but we have this sort of temporary delivery space in front of Samosa Man, and that really cut down the sight distance for people driving out of the parking lot and then pedestrians walking down Allen Street. So we, over the weekend, that was a quick workaround on Parks and Rec's front. We bought an additional sign, got the paint, and did all that today. So that was just something that came up last week, is we should really improve this. When there's a truck parked there, you really can't see. So we did make that change. If people want to hear a little bit about the history of it, though if you're coming to these meetings, you probably have heard it enough. But we do have a podcast episode where Liz and Hannah from Parks and Rec talk a little bit about what's happening over the summer. And we talk to some business owners. These are sort of non-ordinance updates, but just from the opening last week. Parks and Rec did inform me that they served 300 bowls of ice cream, which I think after about an hour started to become bowls of milkshake at a certain point. But it started as ice cream, that's for sure. And I just wanted to thank all the staff. A lot of small changes were made last week. It was a lot that went into this. I just want to make sure to thank all of them for that. But no other updates to the ordinance other than just the motorcycle parking being moved and then identifying that in the ordinance.
And Alex, is a bike parking remaining at Main Street?
Yep, we got the bike rack down there currently.
Okay, good. Because prior to that, people who bike were asking me about the motorcycle bike places, so.
We've got enough of them for all.
The rack's there. So, I want to follow up on the issue that Mary raised at the very beginning, and just for the provision in section 3A2, in terms of political advertising. Maybe you could just walk me through why that's in there. And
yeah.
I tried to look up 664 too, but my phone doesn't quite get me there tonight.
Yeah, this did come up. I mean, this was one of the first conversations that I had here after I was hired 2 years ago, was the 4th of July parade and political activity. It sounded like, and A, I won't remember, and B, I wouldn't want to put anybody on the spot, in the meeting, but there were some problematic interactions in the past that a number of community members complained to Parks and Rec about political activity and about what types of words and slogans and issues were being represented on signs. My general understanding is that there at the parade, and some of this translates over a little bit to Allen Street, but that for many years there had been a sort of general agreement, sort of handshake agreement about what people would or wouldn't do, and then people started to kind of push over that line more, and that Parks and Rec felt like they didn't have anything in writing that they could use to sort of regulate any of that. So that was the genesis of that, and that was the sort of same conversation about Allen Street, was that this is an election year. Obviously, people being involved in civic processes and being registered to vote and things like that are important, but also there's a lot of data that shows, and I think this is experiences that we've heard from community members, that really hyper-partisan political activity doesn't actually create more involvement. It sort of pushes people away from those spaces, and that there are many spaces where people can sort of engage in political activity. And we were trying to create spaces that were kind of more family friendly, and that weren't going to become a divisive political space. So like my understanding, I could be wrong, but for example, is that like a 501c3 that is registering voters is allowed to table, but a candidate running for office wouldn't be, the way the ordinance is written. So that was the thinking there, was concern that it would become a focal point for kind of partisan politics, so to speak, which wasn't really the intention of the street in the space.
But it is a public space.
We do have
So
like
do we not have kind of constitutional obligation?
we do, and we have statutory authority to regulate speech in certain places, and our attorney wrote that, wrote the whole ordinance, but did double check that, and I did ask them to confirm, where exactly the limits are. They did have a conference call that I wasn't on with our Parks and Rec department a couple months ago about, more specifically about 4th of July, and basically where are the lines before we get to what we might want to do as a town, what are we allowed to do and not allowed to do. And it does sound like we do have some discretion as far as regulating speech in places like that.
Oh, okay, interesting. Thank you.
Sure.
Mary,
When we're talking about free speech, I do have that concern about regulating busking differently than other speech. Hampton Beach was going to try to regulate busking, and they were advised differently that it is protected free speech, as are some other activities. And we already have a noise ordinance that basically kicks in for everyone after 10.
Well, we're not banning busking, you can sing political songs as long as it's not amplified.
So we're regulating busking in that we're not allowing amplification, and we're treating it differently than other people who walk around or play their car radios or gather together with the radio.
Mary, I don't know if did you want to come up and address this again, and maybe for the benefit who haven't read RSA 664:2, such as myself, you could give us your perspective.
Sure. So thank you again. Mary Hacken Phillips. I am a resident here in Hanover and from Lebanon Street, and here on behalf of the Executive Committee of the Town of Hanover and Lyme Dems. And specifically, I'm here to express our concern with Ordinance number 43, Section 3, as I mentioned before, because again, we see this as 2 data points from my earlier discussion of a trend that's, as we perceive it, stifling some types of political speech. And specifically the RSA that we're talking about is 664:2, subsection Roman numeral 6, for political advertising. It's a definition, right? So it's any communication, including buttons or printed materials attached to motor vehicles. I'm sorry, am I reading the wrong one? Which expressly or implicitly advocates the success or defeat of any party, measure, or person at any election. So basically printed materials with advocating for candidacy is my understanding. So is my interpretation of that. So when I'm looking at the ordinance, section 3A2, the only group and the only type of speech that is limited here is political advertising. And the concern, as I understand, is that, speaking with vendors adjacent on Allen Street or within Allen Street, is, there's a real concern that their commercial business, their operation could be thwarted or disrupted by loud political parties or like rally type messaging that could make it really unpleasant for someone to sit and have a meal or a drink or whatever. So while I definitely sympathize with that, I'd just like to call to your attention that no other groups are limited in that speech. So for instance, if we're talking about hyper-partisan speech, other forms of that, it's clear that the bookstore right on the street could advocate against book bans, a very hyper-partisan issue right now, and the freedom to read, right? So they can print materials about, the ability to have a First Amendment right to read what it is that you want, whether that means, the most extreme ideas of our political, discourse. It also is clear that, a conservative or nonprofit type, religious type group could rent the vendor space and distribute materials, for instance, on some extreme partisan issue like, what a traditional family, heterosexual family looks like, and advocate for that issue and distribute materials when, the people who are running for office here who are advocating for more inclusive family membership would not be able to advocate their stance in printed materials. So it's clear to me that while this policy is well intended, there will be other opportunities for other groups to pass along that hyper-partisan messaging that we will not be allowed to counter message in terms of advocating for people who are actually on the ballot here in our town. So I'm hopeful, knowing that the other permit for like the default spaces in town for vendor permits will continue to stand, and as it was previously mentioned here in comments that, the ability for the Democratic Party to table to help people with voter registration or absentee ballot applications, that kind of like real germane base organizing, non-affiliated with political candidates is still going to be able to continue, and I think that's obviously wonderful and in line with our long tradition. But it is clear, it is concerning to our group that if it is the intention of the town to create a new public engagement space where the community can come together and really do what it is that our democracy demands of us, and to be engaged with each other and to have discussions about the betterment of our town and the future of our town, that this new public space should also include a public forum for politics. And I'll just go with this last thought, is that, I've been hearing about it for a long time about how Hanover is interested in creating these new public spaces because we don't have an actual designated public forum for people to stand on a soapbox and to hold their message. We do have some limited ability in other public thoroughfare spaces, but this new space would really create an opportunity without discriminating against anyone else or any other subsect of our society or any other speech of our society to also engage. I want to assure you that there are no plans to hold a political rally on Allen Street, for sure, but
Why not?
we just feel that it's not in line with the long tradition of politics and political discourse in our community to limit just one group without thinking a little larger outside that box. And I would just encourage the select board to really think through the actual intent of drafting of this clause, and to also ask yourself what else is not being limited that could also fall into the same bucket of your deepest fears. So I will just leave it there and take any questions that you have. Oh, may I also just leave a little comment? I was there on Wednesday for the ice cream social, and it was really nice. I got to bring my dog, who enjoyed the public space with other dogs, so that was great. But I did notice it was very sunny, which caused the ice cream to melt very quickly, and it caused a kind of an uncomfortable environment in the heat, the direct heat. I have lived in another community who had another outdoor space similar to this Allen Street idea, and a way to cut down on the very hot direct sun moments was a series of pulleys with a sail that they could just pull across the space for a few hours and then wind back up. Obviously that would require adjacent property owners being on board with that idea, but it is kind of a low cost way to keep the direct sun off the group. So just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, thanks.
And off the ice cream, yes, okay.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
the ice cream might last a little
Yeah,
longer.
all right, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay. I will mention for the record, and it's no surprise to several of my select board members, that I'm not a busking fan. Although I am an Allen Street fan, and I applaud the initiative, but I'm not a busking fan, so I will not be supporting this ordinance, but it is not because I am against the Allen Street initiative, just the busking element. So I'm just putting that out there, so it's not a surprise. And I think, although I'm generally a fun-loving guy, but not on the busking. But any other questions around Allen Street? Yes. No. Yes.
I'd like to strike that sentence that we were just discussing, the
Oh,
no
no
political
advertising.
advertising
You'd
as
like to strike it?
defined.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so I'd like to move that we approve the amendment, the Allen Street Placemaking Pilot Temporary Closure Ordinance number 43 with section 3A2, the sentence, no political advertising shall be permitted in vendor spaces. I'd like that deleted, so that would be my motion,
So an amendment to it? Yep, okay.
just because I don't want to get into regulating speech, so.
Yeah. Do we have a second one?
Yes.
I would second that.
Okay, all right. So we have an amended ordinance to vote for, all right? Okay. I will,
Wait, we have to,
do we have to?
wait a
Do
minute.
we,
Do we
do
move
we,
the first thing?
do we
Do we have to
move
move
this
the
first thing?
amendment?
So I-
Out of order
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right,
I'm out
so-
of order. That's often the case. I move to approve, I move the Allen Street Placemaking Pilot Temporary Closure Ordinance number 43.
Second, so now you want to make an amendment.
I'd like to amend that ordinance to strike the language, no political advertising as defined by RSA 664:2, Roman numeral 6, shall be permitted in these vendor spaces, which is located on section 3A2.
Oh, second.
Second, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes, aye. Okay.
Jenny, was that aye?
Did you hear all that, Jenny?
Aye.
Okay.
I would like to amend to strike section B because I think it's well covered in our noise ordinance.
What's section B?
The non-busking?
Wait a minute, what's the question?
So the question was the.
The non-amplified busking?
The amendment, she would like to, you would like to propose a further amendment
Yes.
to strike the busking language? Okay, but for, I think, Jenny, and not to put words in your mouth, although I think you are pro-busking, but you feel that we do not need this, well, why don't you explain yourself?
Correct. I think that we already have a noise ordinance that covers busking. We also already have an outdoor activity permit process. If somebody wants to do something really big, that's like a substantial disruption. But I don't think that busking should be treated any differently than what we already do. And I think it's like unnecessary regulation.
So while I'm not in favor of busking personally, I do think, Alex, I want your help here. I do think that as a matter of policy and ordinance that busking, as I understand it, busking is not permitted and this would allow it. Is that?
That was my understanding, and that's why we wrote this to allow busking. That was the purpose.
Non-amplified.
Busking is allowed as free speech, as is panhandling by case law. Obviously, that could change with our current Supreme Court, but right now, that is where it stands. And in the town of Hanover, we have a pretty regular busking scene, during which a number of them, I think outside of the trumpet player, use modest amplification so that you can hear the singing. And I think this is regulating something that doesn't need to be regulated is the main point. And second, I don't understand why it's saying non-amplified. We have amplified music all over town, and when people complain after 10 o'clock, they're asked to be quiet. I don't see why this is any different.
All right, Alex, any
I'm
thought?
really confused.
Yeah. So I think she's saying busking happens, and so just let it be.
I've never seen busking, but I'm not always in town and you live closer. Okay.
Tracy, you're giving a thumbs up.
It happened today.
Busking happens.
Where was busking? I have
From
to,
the town hall.
I just want to make
Call
clear
me.
that I can't hear the busking from my home. but I do see and enjoy the busking when I go downtown. I can send you some photos after if you'd like.
No, Tracy's gonna.
Usually a lot of people gather and it's it's basically a scene out of Gilmore Girls, right?
Tracy's gonna call me next time we're busking. I'll drive down. Bike down. I'll bike down, Jenny.
All right,
That is fantastic.
did Jenny make her motion?
I think, Jenny, did you make a motion?
Did you make a motion?
Yes, but I don't think we had a second.
All right, is there someone who would like to?
Look, I'm pro busking. Is there gonna still be busking? Because you tell me there is, if we basically don't have this language in there.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true.
Alex is not agreeing with you, not necessarily disagreeing with you, but he's not necessarily agreeing with you either.
I mean, I guess my question would be,
Okay, then I guess I
one
have
second,
a question.
Jenny,
If somebody's making some noise and I complain about it, what is the Hanover Police Department gonna do about it?
They're
Jenny.
trying to remove you.
Yeah, Alex wanted to speak, can we let him talk for a
well,
second?
I guess my question would be, this clause that allows busking, like explicitly, without amplification, and like, we should remember people live downtown, there are residents abutting Allen Street as well, and so amplified music, I think, is not, I would just say is a bad idea generally, to just open that up all the time in the downtown, personal staff opinion. You know, you're concerned about overregulation. This permits busking without a license, without any fees, without any insurance, between the existing non-quiet hours, as long as they don't impede ADA access, which they already can't do. So I guess my question would be, what's the downside of this clause? What do we lose by saying, if you are supporting busking, what is lost? What is the downside of saying that? Because there are no additional regulations.
Well, there is a regulation about non-amplification. Right now I can play a radio.
I don't know if that's true, because if that's disruptive to other people, I mean, if someone sets up a guitar and an amp down on Allen Street and there's somebody who lives on Allen Street who complains about that noise from their apartment, yeah, they would call the police and the police would come out.
Are the police there? What happens? I mean, I have neighbors who call about noise at other neighbors' houses quite frequently, and the answer that they get is after 10 o'clock I can do something about that, because that's what our noise ordinance says, right? That's the ordinance that we've all been living with.
I guess I would just caution about amplified music all day, all the time, anywhere in town, would be my opinion.
Yeah,
as a musician myself.
Suggested that there will be amplification all day. I mean, there's not, but there is amplified music throughout town pretty much every day.
So Jenny, just as a matter of process, even though I am anti-busking, I think from a process standpoint that if there's no harm to adding this language,
I think there is harm, Carrie.
Okay.
I think there's harm because busking is protected as free speech, and I, for one, don't want to be on the record as limiting free speech, which I think is unconstitutional.
Just because you can't amplify
And because you can't just because of you're treating busking differently than other speech.
Well, I think the town council sees it differently, right?
I mean, they wrote this ordinance and double checked it, and we talked about that clause specifically.
So it's a trial of the Allen Street Placemaking project, and it's probably a trial of this ordinance language. And I'm arguing against myself here, but I would keep it in, as that would be my recommendation, but I'll look to others. It may be superfluous, it may already be protected, and then it's kind of redundant, but maybe argue on the side of redundancy. And if it is proved to be redundant upon further review in future ordinances, strike it. Is that fair, Jenny?
I don't think she's gonna agree.
And I think in Hampton Beach, they ended up not passing a busking ordinance for these concerns, with the idea that busking should not be treated differently than any other speech.
I pulled up a picture of Tracy Chapman busking in Harvard Square when I lived there in the mid-'80s, when she was a student at Tufts. She does not have amplification, Jenny.
Tracy Chapman would not have amplification probably because she probably projects, but not, I mean, you're just restricting it to people who can project in a certain way while singing. So it'd just be difficult for other people.
Which way you want to go?
We need a second.
Yeah, we need to move forward. Why don't we just make a motion and vote it up or
It's got a
down?
motion on the table
There's a motion.
But yeah, it hasn't been seconded.
to
No.
strike you, right, okay. There
So
has
there's
not been,
no second.
there's no second.
And then I guess the motion fails.
Yes, Jenny, I would support it, but only for the wrong reasons, and therefore I can't. I'm sorry. So, okay. All right, then we move on to the motion of the amended motion. So go for it.
Didn't we vote on that?
Did we?
Yeah.
We might, okay.
I think we voted.
I thought it was just on the amendment.
I thought it was
No.
just a little bit too.
Oh, okay, I apologize.
Yes, okay. So on the motion as amended,
I'll move that we approve the motion as amended with striking the provision concerning.
I think you need to speak up a little.
I move to approve the amended ordinance 43, which is striking the sentence with regard to RSA 664:26.
okay.
Second, go ahead.
Second, yep, okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jenny?
I'm gonna have to go against this amendment, I'm sorry, I really like all the placemaking.
Wait, so I didn't hear you, Jenny. Say it again, please. What did she say?
No, I'm
Voting
against it.
Okay, 3-1.
No, it's 2 to 1 to 1.
I haven't
Oh, you
I
abstained.
haven't voted
Oh,
yet.
so
Are
how
you
does that
abstaining or
go?
are you not voting?
If I abstain, does the motion carry?
Yeah, it does.
Yes, okay, I abstain. Motion carries.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, all right. Okay, passes. All right, good. It's a highly nuanced discussion, but we got there.
It's good to
Got to
discuss.
see Tracy Chapman from the mid-'80s,
Yeah.
early '80s.
Okay.
Before she
Did
was
you
who
give her
she
money?
is.
All right, let's go on to the next public hearing. Now we move on to
Noise.
noise ordinance number 33. And Alex, any comments here?
Let's see, a couple, although actually, are we sure that 211 passes?
Abstention.
Well, wait.
Because abstention is basically a no, because it's not a yes. So if it's a majority of members present, it's 4 and 2 voted in favor.
It's a no or is it a yes?
The abstention is a no. The abstentions are always, they're not yeses,
Right.
Right,
right?
but if it's,
But then there's 1 no,
right,
so there's only 2 yeses
right.
on a 5-person board, 4 people present. Either way, that's not more than 50%.
So we need 3 yeses.
I think
Are you
so.
sure? I'm not,
I don't know, how else could that math?
where did Mary go? Mary left.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how a 2-1, I mean, you don't have a majority. 2's not a majority.
Okay, so
Both members present
if
or
we
both
reintroduce and strike the busking, which I think Jenny suggested she would support, and I support for different reasons. I know this is a highly nuanced discussion, then it would then, in fact, then, I think it would then carry.
Yeah.
Yes, all right, can we do that? Let's-
Jenny, you want to make
Jenny,
your motion?
Make your motion.
Sure, I move to strike the busking language in B. Section B.
Yes, in addition to the prior amended language, right?
But we need to vote on this amendment.
Yeah, I think that still stands, right?
It still stands, okay. I will second. All those in favor?
Hold on, before we vote, excuse me.
Yep.
Jenny's saying people can busk. Is that a verb? Alex
There
isn't
will be in
sure.
the summer.
Alex isn't sure. I don't want to prohibit busking, but if this does, then we should bring it back.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
I can look into that a little bit more, get a second opinion from our police chief and attorney, and if everybody agrees that busking is definitely not permitted currently, I will come back
Can reintroduce.
to reintroduce that, yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
So
okay,
Let's just move on.
So we've seconded, so now we have,
Did we second? Okay.
we did second, so all those in favor of the amended
the
motion?
amended
Aye.
amendment.
Yeah, aye, okay.
Oh, it's a
carries.
unanimous board.
Yes,
Wow.
all right, good, all right, Allen Street, approved. All right, next, noise.
Okay, so noise, I think the only, I don't think there were any changes from, oh, yes, one change, thank you Joanna for that one, which was, we had moved, from 7 AM to 6 AM as the, ending of quiet hours behind town hall, and then we, instead of just keeping it to that parking lot, we decided to expand that to the D1 and D2 zones. So it just makes it a little bit wider of a footprint, that's supposed to allow deliveries happening an hour earlier.
Okay, terrific. Any questions on that? Is there a motion?
Move,
Wait,
Right, yes,
there's a public hearing, right?
yes,
this is public hearing.
public
But
hearing.
nobody from the public.
On
has-
ordinance.
I'm sorry, any
Ordinance number
members of the
33.
public have any questions or comments with respect to the noise ordinance? Seeing none, okay. Call the motion.
I move to approve the amendment to the noise ordinance, ordinance number 33. And it's by allowing, extending the hours of delivery by an hour really from 10, nothing between 10 PM and 6 AM. So deliveries are encouraged before rush hour or after rush hour in D1 and D2 downtown areas
Okay,
to help businesses.
thank you. Second. Others?
Well, you say second, I
Oh,
keep thinking you're seconded.
I'm sorry, I'm looking for a second. I will second, all right.
Sounds
okay.
good.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jenny?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Unanimous, all right. We go on to parklets and sidewalk seating, ordinance number 41. 41?
Yep, 41, yeah. So no changes from the June 17th meeting, and the only thing I mentioned that we already talked about is just recommend that folks get together before November, a couple months before November, which I guess is soon, to just make sure to check in on the process and raise some fees for next time.
I move the ordinance. I do have a question, but I can ask it after.
Have to move it, okay.
I'll move ordinance 41 as presented.
All right, I will second. And your question?
Alex, I think this is for you. And it's just the name of the Town Minor Projects Committee.
Mhm.
What is that? And who is that? Is that
That's a
something-
staff committee
that
that Rob convenes for certain types of applications, either for the planning board or the zoning board, just for the staff to get together.
So it's the site plan review minor app?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the public? Comments? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jenny?
Hold on, so the town safety committee was changed to the projects committee? Am I understanding that correctly?
I think it's the minor site plan committee.
The minor site plan,
Isn't that what that is?
Yeah, just-
It's the minor site plan committee, so maybe the,
is that a recent update? Because I just have this is in the Parklet, section 222. Is that correct?
I have it noted in section 6A.
Yeah.
Followed approval by.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I guess I had a question about 222, because it has a town safety committee. And I was confused, is that a working group? Or like what is that? I think we should define whatever that is because the name is not clear to me.
Yeah, and then we can change that, and we shouldn't be calling that a committee because it's really not, it's just a meeting of staff, of 4 staff. So I think you can just say, town staff shall designate the limits. Or it appears above, it's to the town manager, so I would just repeat that below. And just keep that consistent. So in section 2, and then 2 should be the same.
Okay.
So we're amending to 222, and then can we, maybe I'll look it up in the site plan regs. I think it's called the Town Minor Site Plan Review Committee or something like that.
Yeah, let me see, there's some, it is the minor, yeah, I've got it in as minor project review committee.
Yeah. So is it okay if we just make that
Yeah, that's in 6.
minor
6A.
project review committee?
Yeah, okay. So
Just-
updating 6A to say minor project review committee. Okay.
And 2.2, town manager, under 2.2.2.
And I would,
Okay.
if we're updating to 2.2.2, I would also say, instead of designate, I would just say determine. I know that may not, actually, sorry, that matches. I'm just trying to match the 2 sections. They both say designate, so that's fine.
All right, so we have amended language. Do you want to amend your motion to incorporate what we just
A
discussed?
lot of pressure.
Yeah,
Yes,
I know. Yes,
let's
okay.
amend the motion
Yeah,
to
okay.
say, to include town manager for
2.2.2.
Alice 222, and then section 6A to be the minor project review committee.
I will second. We'll call it again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Jenny?
Aye, sorry.
Okay, all right. Thank you. We move on from parklets to parking, which is ordinance number 6. Any introductory comments there?
Yeah, a little, just a couple here. So first, before any 1 or 2 comments on the ordinance, just people hopefully have seen, we did place about 15 new parking signs around the downtown that I think actually helped a lot. I put a couple pictures in the memo, but they all went up last week and maybe a couple more this week. And they're just all the parking garage and the parking lots, and so basically we mapped out the whole route around town, and there's arrows at every intersection now. So hopefully that will help a little bit with the wayfinding. There's a lot of feedback that we did get. Lots of, like all these ordinances, lots of small changes. The only other changes from the last meeting was 1 or 2 typos in parking lot names, and then 1 or 2 that didn't get updated that should be updated correctly now. And then the other was just this idea that Carrie and Joanna, we talked about, where what we were planning on doing, is probably the easiest way to summarize this, is what parking was thinking about doing was moving the lot behind Upplebee's that currently is called the South Block lot. That about half of those 20 spaces are business owner or business employees in that area. We had a conversation, and so the idea was that we were going to make that lot a full business permit lot, and then kind of push people to the garage. And then Carrie, one of the ideas that you had was kind of like asking, well, what's the easiest thing for a visitor to find? Is it the garage or is it the lot? When I took that back to parking, I think we all agreed that probably the lot is easier to find and park in, just as far as, visibility and time it takes. And so we sort of switched the plan. So the idea being to keep that lot as a public lot and then to move those spaces into the garage instead. We do have 50 spaces in the garage that are reserved for, they're not reserved spaces with a sign on them, but it's 50 spaces total that we allow daily parkers instead of hourly. There's only about 25 cars that take advantage of those a day. So the idea is that without actually changing a whole lot in the garage in the short term, to move all those business employees into that garage and then to sit with business owners and talk to them about the now plan stricter enforcement of feeding meters all day and really try and push some of those employees into that garage. And the idea is that if we could get 10 or 15 or maybe 20, and there's more than that who park in meter spaces every day in downtown. If we could get all of those folks into the garage, A, it's going to be cheaper for them in the long run, and B, that could potentially open up 15 or 20 spaces in the downtown, which is a pretty good number. So so that's the sort of short-term idea, and then when we started talking about it more, we realized that this is worth exploring. It's going to take a couple months to do, but we have 62 people on the waiting list for permanent spaces in the parking garage currently, and the idea is that if, we don't know yet, we need to sort of survey those people, but let's say half of those cars, they wanted a permanent space in the garage and they didn't get it, so they're just feeding a meter somewhere in town. If we could open up more spaces in the garage for permits and leases, it's easier staff-wise, it's less enforcement. And again, if there's half of those waiting list people are parking in the downtown and we could move them all out of meter spaces into the garage, that's a huge increase in the number of spaces downtown. So the idea is basically rethinking about how the garage functions, and is it really a visitor lot, or do we sort of try to conglomerate as many long-term parkers into the garage as possible, moving all those cars only if it moves cars out of other parking spots. If we look at those 62 cars and determine that 0 of those cars, say, are parking anywhere in the downtown, I think this plan doesn't really accomplish as much. So parking wants a couple months, maybe a month or two to sort of see if we can figure out where those cars are parking, but that first idea sort of sparked the second idea, which was could we use the garage really as a long-term parking and then free up shorter-term spaces in the lots. So that's the only substantial change from last meeting.
And I think this would be an ideal discussion of the new committee that's as yet to be named, but I think this is I like this idea. Jenny, what do you think?
I mean, the Thompson lot is free. I hear from a lot of businesses that they want to buy their employees permits in the garage and they haven't been able to. So I do hear that a lot. I do notice that the permit parking, while sold, is tremendously underutilized. And in general, if we're selling the spot, for a long period of time and it's dedicated, sort of, even though it's not the specific spot dedicated, but the spot in an area is dedicated to people, it's going to be underutilized because it's a way to not share public space and have it, be ready to be used by, specific people when they come in.
But I think
it address some short-term need, perhaps? Is it a great long-term strategy? I would probably say no, because we would want to get to a place where we can more efficiently use the space that we have in our downtown.
Jenny, I do think they oversubscribe those spaces, 20% to increase.
Yeah, I mean, I've only done a couple counts, and I typically find them to be incredibly underutilized.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if it's during the school year, or in the summer, or in the middle of the day, which is our high utilization time.
So again, I think
Darren can probably speak to that more. His van's down there. That's the one consistent thing you'll find is Luz uses their spot with the van.
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to hear you on the long term and the hopefully we move toward the parking committee and we get some longer term answers. But it seems like this is good change in the meantime. So, any other comments with respect to the parking ordinance? No. Motion. Office's turn.
I'd be happy to
Yes.
move the parking ordinance.
Okay.
I forgot the number.
Second. It's number 6. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Jenny?
I didn't see the free spots. Am I missing it? I just don't like the 15-minute spots being free because I don't think people are going to turn over. And I think they're going to overuse those spots when it's just very counter to sort of everything we're trying to do with our master plan.
Okay.
Okay.
Like, I don't think it helps the problem in terms of like having available spaces. And I also think it's counter to our master plan in that it's sort of oversupplying a good that is carbon intensive as well as incentivizes carbon intensive behavior.
Okay, so we called the issue. Do you want us to reopen the question, or is that a no? Alex, on the free parking, is that in the ordinance?
Yeah, the Allen Street spaces are updated in there, and I think the other two spaces are just, I don't know if those are updated actually. Although we can not enforce the meter space.
Jay, did you have a specific page in the ordinance that you want to talk about?
Are the 15-meter spots in? I couldn't find them. That was my question. Are they in there?
Yeah, I mean, like, have to take a second to find the page.
Yeah, so for those following along at home, the parking ordinance is page 59 to 90 of the package.
So for example, if you look on page 18 of the ordinance, you'll see all the red line changes with like the free 15-minute spaces there.
Okay.
So page 76
Yeah, I
of
would
the
need
packet.
to make some, I mean, we bothered to make the 2 to 3 hour lots. We bothered to make the rates at, 4 minutes, 7 minutes. We spell out how much it costs to pay like a very short-term rate at those. I would move to apply the same 2 to 3 hour on-street meter rates to the 15-meter rates.
So you're not in favor of the 15-minute spots. I think we heard.
I'm not
Alex,
in favor of the 15-minute spots being free.
being free. Okay, got you. Okay.
Yes.
So
I'm in favor of them being at the same rate as the 2 to 3 hour on-street parking rates.
at the same rate, right? Because you can put in 15 minutes presumably, so it would be, I don't know what that works out to, 25 cents or something. So Alex, this was a topic of staff, and they had a rationale, and can you just kind of go through that, remind us?
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, Jenny has mentioned that the enforcement is harder with it free, but our staff have been very clear that that's not the case. They're the ones who do the enforcement every day, so I would definitely defer to their judgment about that. Understanding that there is a very high cost of free parking, but this isn't really that, right? This is something that we're trying to offer back to businesses who have come forward and complained about the reduction of parking spaces, and for not only along and near Allen Street, but just generally in the downtown with the Parklets, we lose about 16 spaces from that. And that the 2-hour turnover is a lot. And for some reason, the spaces on Allen Street for 3-4 years maybe have been 2 hours. All right, Jack. And that 15-minute spaces is much better for businesses. We all agreed that kind of in the staff meeting, and we said, okay, is that something that we want to enforce, to ask people to pay for or not? And we all kind of agreed that with the spottiness of cell phone service, people digging for, you know, a nickel here and there. I mean, it's $5,000, it's about $5,300 of revenue for the entire year for all the Allen Street spaces from people putting money in the meter. It's not a lot of money. And again, this is one of those things where I would probably say it's worth a try. And, you know, business owners, again, I think have gotten hit, you know, with parking difficulties, and having free spaces that they can offer to customers is definitely a benefit in that regard. So it was kind of the two-pronged piece of it. One, that our staff were very clear that they would prefer it, that it's easier to enforce from their perspective if it's just a free space, and that we will enforce the 15-minute limit. And the second kind of prong to that was trying to sort of work with businesses a little bit who had complained about some of the parking difficulties. And I would say like this with all the other parking stuff is, you know, give it a shot for a couple months. We haven't had, you know, it's been 2-hour spaces on Allen Street for years. Like, let's see what happens here. If parking has trouble enforcing it, or people are sitting there all day and they're getting booted and nobody changes, I mean, I think it's worth coming back for sure, like with all of these sort of parking things. But I guess my last 2 cents is, you know, is sort of giving it a shot, and if it doesn't really work, you know, in a couple months, I think we'll know that, and that can be updated. But my guess is that it would be well used and well appreciated by folks that are doing the kind of quick pickup and drop off.
What does happen if this is only, I mean, this is a 2-month pilot, in month 3, what happens to the parking there?
So the way this particular free 15 minutes is structured is that this would remain free on Allen Street after the pilot ends, because this is in the parking ordinance, not in the Allen Street ordinance.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, but it could also, I mean, like, you know, you all
I
can
know.
update, yeah, at any time.
Okay.
So we tried to split the stuff that we knew was temporary and put that in Allen Street, and the stuff that we thought would last longer, not.
I knew that.
Yeah, I think the other concern I had was just a process question, because I believe that the parking ordinance needs a 30-day notice and a public hearing, not a 7-day notice.
Where is that coming from, Jenny?
In our town charter.
Our town charter. You have a section?
Yeah.
And it specifies the notice period for the parking. I mean, I feel like there wasn't parking when the charter was written. Could be wrong about that.
Well,
Right,
I mean,
the charter
King George didn't really have much to
amended
say,
in
right?
like the 60s, but
Jenny, what section in the charter are you saying that's in?
Wow.
1961?
1761. You're
Probably
right,
61,
I think it was
because it was
1961.
probably when
Well,
zoning came
1761 was
through.
the charter,
Okay. Yeah,
or the
the royal
incorporation.
charter, right. but the-
King George and all
Yeah,
that,
61 was the town charter, right? I
Right.
think, yeah, okay.
both of which happen to be great.
Are you looking up the town charter?
Wow, how would you know that? I
How many
can
more
hardly.
public hearings do we have?
and maybe it was changed, you know, subsequent to this. It's just when we changed parking in the past, I thought it was also with a 30-day notice.
Well, how about if we make this change now, and if we find, and vote, and if we find out that we did it wrong, then we come back and
It'd be like
correct it?
that, it's
We have voted
in
in
section
the past.
17A, but I don't know the subsection.
Hey, Jenny, go ahead.
So Jenny, so we have made the motion, 3 of us have voted in favor. Why don't we, thank you for your pointing out your questions, why don't we take that into the very busy parking committee's mandates of things to figure out, including watching how the 15-minute free parking goes. Jack will give us a report, I'm sure, on how that works out.
You just gotta sign the job. Coming to this.
Listen, my only comment is, response I get back from people with, when it was 15 minutes, they come in and they'd be very concerned. I've got to park somewhere, but I need more than 15 minutes. And now what I get, it jumped high, 2 hours. It was, jumped too much. Maybe it jumped to an hour to accommodate it, but you jump to 2 hours, and now you've got electricians, all kinds of business workers just parking there.
Yeah, it's a
And
good
pushing
point.
it and feeding it to get the job done. If they can't, they'll pay the extra $15 and they won't have to move their truck.
So we'll be able to get them in.
So I think customers are very conscious of the fact that in obeying the law, and it would cause people to go around to the back and park. So, well, I would love to see free parking on the street. You might want to just, instead of going free, I don't want to disagree with anybody, but you might want to dial it back, because in my opinion, 2 hours is too much. 15 minutes is maybe not enough. But the idea is to get movement. It's not just to lock people in there, it's to get movement and give the perception of, well, it's $1 here, it's $2 here, it's $3 here. It's free here, you're just gonna get a lot of people trying to.
That's really good advice.
Okay.
We should,
All right.
really good advice.
Thank you. Thank you, John. All right. Jenny, did you want to vote on this? We've got three in favor.
I just abstain.
Okay.
You're going to abstain. Okay. All right. We move on now to a public hearing on accepting unanticipated funds from the Department of Safety Division of Fire Standards Training and EMS in the amount of $9,750. And we have Mike Gilbert here also, and we have Alex. Do you want to, either of you want to talk to this, or both of you want to talk to
If
this?
you want to say anything, I mean, it's great grant money. Yeah. If you like training.
By the way, first time that we've had you before. You're a
Yes,
capacity.
welcome.
Congratulations.
So
Welcome,
Mike Gilbert,
Chief.
the fire chief.
Yes.
So the Fire Academy offers these grants every year, and what they look at is the specialty rescue, things that most people can't afford. And the grants give us money to provide our members to go and be paid overtime, or to backfill if they're working shifts. So we have 2 members that have signed up for 2 different classes, one being confined space and one being trench rescue. Well, the community that's high risk for us, and that's kind of what we supported, and that's why they're going. So we have 2 members that are taking advantage of this, and we'll get the training. And that the 9,000 whatever is to pay for them to go and backfill to make sure our shift stays at 4.
And it's very timely, because driving around town, I can see trenches.
Yeah, right now there's a lot of, with the construction and with the college, they have a lot of underground. So these are 2 things that we definitely train on, and it's giving these members not only training but certifications.
Yep.
Great.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, congratulations. Yep. Okay, that is our last, okay, we need a motion actually to accept unanticipated funds.
I move to accept the funds as listed.
Okay.
I don't remember the number.
9,750, we're good to go. I'll second
Yes,
it.
okay, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Yes,
Yay.
terrific, okay. We move on now to business requiring discussion, of which there is none, but business requiring action, of which there are several, and we will call out the donations, because that is a little bit different than the proposed action motion language.
Approved by, you need a motion approved by consent 1 through 4?
And also on number 1, we actually, in the packet, we have minutes of June 3rd. We have minutes of June 17th, but we also have minutes from town meeting, which are extensive. That is pages 123 to 151, and that's from May 14th.
That's why it was so thick.
That's why, yes. And Tracy, I know you were a big part of that. Thank you. Not sure who else worked on that. Maybe it was all you. I don't know, but no. Carrie, okay. Thank you. That was a big job. Okay, so we
Can I
should.
ask, wait, I need to process question, wait.
We don't approve
We
the
don't
town
approve
meeting.
town meeting, no, we don't
No.
approve those minutes.
We don't approve the minutes?
No,
No.
the town meeting has to approve them.
We
Yeah.
approve them at town meeting.
Yeah.
So so the motion is correct. All right, thank you. Although it's not, I think it's June 3rd and June 17th, right?
It's not 7, it's not 27.
Yeah, not 27th.
It's 17 on the minutes, but it's in the,
Okay.
in the consent agenda.
It says
It
27.
should, we can just correct that.
Yes.
17.
17, all right, so that's amended. All right, but we will pull out donations number, so it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, motion, so you moved 1 through 4?
Yes, I
You
did.
did.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. With respect to donations?
Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks, Jenny. I'll read it. Hanover Fire Department, Hanover Police Department have each received $1,000 donation from the Brett Family Fund for their general use. The Hanover Parks and Rec Department has received a donation from White River Toyota in the amount of $1,500 in sponsorship for the stage for the July 4th celebration. And donations from the following businesses to support their adult athletic programs: Hanover Brick and Brew, $250, Black Moon Games, $250, and Roger Clarkson Realty, $250. The Etna Library has received from Arthur and Lowell Poor in the amount of $200. So the motion would be to request these donations with gratitude.
Accept them.
Accept them. What did I say?
Request them.
Request them, yes. Well, yes, to accept them. Thank you. Second, yeah, second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Aye.
All right. That's it for the consent agenda. Select board reports. Although town, I know we didn't have anything allotted for town manager, but did you have any comments?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Select board reports.
The advisory board of assessors met twice since we last met, and most recently it was last Thursday, I think, or Friday. No, Friday morning we met on site to review an applicant requested abatement of Run Lime Road and did a walkabout. It was a lovely day. Came back and decided that we needed more information. So, but we did approve just now on the consent agenda an abatement, and there'll be a couple more coming next time. I think there'll be at least 2 more that will come next month or later this month. And then we have to have another meeting soon. So we're busy, but not with many cases, just with 1 or 2.
Okay, all right, thank you. Athos?
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Jenny, anything to report?
Sustainable Hanover met, and people are doing good work thinking through composting and other issues about microplastics and fluorocarbons. They're very concerned about the tree and that maybe we can come up with a way for the wood to be used in a creative way, perhaps an artistic project. So I said I would pass that along. The planning board, I think I mentioned in a letter, is very concerned about double utility poles and how we can take them down. So I reached out to NHMA, and there's a process by which we can request that these obsolete utility poles are taken down, provided we know the owner, and they have to take them down within 15 days, and if they don't, we can take them down and bill them for that. So perhaps that's something we could take up if someone can find out who owns the utility poles. And then for Sustainable Hanover and Hanover Bike Walk, the e-bike lending library has been going on. There's been some e-bike demonstrations around town at Forest Pond. It was a very successful day, and then there's been some around Dartmouth campus, and on July 4th, they'll have some demonstrations right on the green. So anybody who wants to try one can try it for free. That's what that is. There's like 4 different models.
Thank you, Jenny.
One more thing.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Joanna.
The other notable Sustainable Hanover Committee tidbit is that at the 4th of July parade, they're celebrating their 15th year of being a committee. So that's kind of cool. Jenny, you've been more involved. I'm out of town, but if people want to cheer them on or join the party, hop on a bike, take a walk at the parade on Thursday.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Jenny?
Yeah, I think they'll have a birthday cake. So if you're craving cake on 4th of July, you know where to go.
That's really good.
That is an incentive. Thank you. Just one thing from me, June 27th, Hanover Finance, that was last Thursday, Hanover Finance Committee met. Ellen was in attendance. Thank you very much, Ellen, for coming to that. There were some specific recommendations with respect to negotiations, audit and budget, and kind of some voluminous examples, et cetera, which Ellen's got a copy of, and I think they may be actually formalizing in some way. That wasn't quite clear, but so anyway, some good feedback and some follow-up, I'm sure, to there. So, and did you want to add anything on that, Ellen, or?
No, I think that I agree, Carrie, that I think they're gonna sort of finalize some of the charts and sort of project plans that they put together.
Yes, okay, great, good. Okay, nothing further than, I don't think, for select board reports. And that's really it. So we need, we will adjourn, but we do need a motion to go into non-public session. So.
I'm going to go into non-public session. What are the, can you read the numbers?
Yes, RSA 91, 3, 2, A, B, D, E, and L.
There you go.
Okay, all right, thank you, Altus. Second.
Whitcomb, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Gracias, yes.
Chamberlain, yes.
Okay,
Thank
very good.
you.
All right, thank
Thanks
you all very
everyone for
much.
being here.
Thank you.